2023 is a very big year for Bethesda. By Force Gaming, let's watch.
Pushed back out of 2022, which was kind of a rough year. I mean, all right, it was pretty good, don't get me wrong. Hard to complain in a year that gave us Elden Ring, Ragnarok, Metal Hellsinger, and Vampire Survivor.
He's got a point. These are all killer titles. It was an insane year,
among others. But if I'm being frank, it was a relatively slow 12 months of new releases, especially when it comes to big games. Compared to recent prior years, there just wasn't a lot going on. But
I guess I could agree with that. So there were some really big bangers of titles, but they were pretty spread out. It wasn't like it was like every month there was something, or even every other month. It seemed like maybe every 3 months or something like that, and sometimes even, you know, 2 or 3 of the big bangers released around the same time. So you would go like a few months and then nothing, and then boom, it's like, oh, these are awesome, and then kind of quiet again.
2023, on the other hand, is looking anything but slow. Specifically, Bethesda, both game studios and Softworks, have a very strong lineup of new releases, along with some highly anticipated announcements, some of which we'll be getting real soon. What started out as a rumor last December has now been officially confirmed. Xbox and Bethesda are hosting a developer direct on January 25th. This event will be presented by the game developers themselves and is aimed to focus on, quote, big features, extended gameplay showcases, and the latest info for Xbox games launching in the next few months.
And we know that's going to be Starfield, right? So they've got to show off some awesome Starfield footage. You guys better be watching. This is going to be insane.
With that in mind, they have said that this developer direct will feature The Elder Scrolls Online, Redfall, Forza Motorsports, and Minecraft Legends. You will notice a distinct
there's a distinct lack of Starfield mentioned there. Never mind, take back everything I just said.
Lack of Starfield here, and they address this in the press release, saying, to dedicate the proper amount of time for a deep dive into Bethesda game studio Starfield, a standalone show is in the works. This also...
That makes sense. Why skimp out? Why make the showcase fleeting and leave the fans feeling like they weren't done justice. It wasn't addressed properly. So you give it your own showcase. Starfield, take the stage.
Also makes me think that those rumors that Redfall would be launching prior to Starfield are in fact going to turn out to be true. But either way, the kickoff of this new event, this developer direct from Microsoft and Bethesda, is exciting for anyone looking forward to any of their upcoming games. Now I want to talk a bit about specifically what is on the horizon in 2023 for Bethesda. Starting with Starfield, their next major franchise, probably the biggest, most anticipated release of 2023.
Easily for me. Easily. So, as I may have mentioned before, last stream, actually, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Huge. And the fact that this is like an insanely huge space world with ships that you can customize and like go on these awesome adventures, meet these different creatures and races or whatever, and explore different planets. This scratches my itch for Star Wars. I'm so excited. Starfield is going to be amazing. Everybody better hop on the hype train. If you're not feeling down, you know, just get out. Just get out, because Starfield is going to be amazing.
At least it's up there among them. This is the company's first new IP in some 20 plus years and has been said to take...
I guess I should probably say a disclaimer to that. It should be amazing. I hope it's amazing. In my opinion, it will be amazing, but my opinion can be wrong.
What Bethesda is known best for, you know, crafting these like detailed, immersive worlds with funny physics and bringing all of that into a larger scale while also set in outer space. The game takes place in the year 2330. This is 20 years after the two largest factions engaged.
2330. I had to think about that. I was like, oh yeah, I'll be alive then, but I heard it as like 2030. No, not going to be around in 2330, sadly.
in this devastating territory war, and you, playing as a member of the Constellation, an organization of space explorers, go out trying to navigate the remains of this aftermath and solve some of its biggest problems. We'll be adventuring through what are called the settled systems. Bethesda has confirmed that this will include more than 100 solar systems and
Think about the scale of that. More than 100 solar systems. So if each solar system has 9 planets, let's say, we're talking 900 planets. 900 planets. Just let that soak in.
1,000 planets, which became a bit of a meme, a bit of a jabbing point. You know, how could you possibly have 1,000 handcrafted planets at the level of like detail and depth and density and fidelity of Bethesda's prior games? The short answer is you can't, and there will be a lot of procedural generation. There will be a lot of empty space.
Right.
There will be a lot of barren planets, which may be filled later in DLCs or filled by the modding community, but mostly will be there for places to put your own base and to mine for resources, more or less, with landmarks scattered throughout. In terms of the game,
yeah, I mean, I guess that's to be expected. You can't expect it to be like fully fleshed out, filled with amazing interactable like quests everywhere with that kind of scale. You're gonna have some dead space, but that's okay.
gameplay and what you'll be doing, well, it will consist of what you expect from any mainline Bethesda RPG. You'll go out, you'll meet various NPCs with their own backgrounds and alliances. There will be a dialogue and persuasion mechanic as usual. This one with over 250,000 lines of dialogue, the biggest ever in a Bethesda game.
Wait, that just sunk in. 250,000 lines of dialogue. And you saw the scale there, or the graph. That's over double their previous highest amount of dialogue. So you got to know this game is going to be intense. I mean, there's going to be a lot. And I guess there has to be with the scale they're going for. I mean, 100 solar systems to explore. There better be some conversations to have.
Walking around, exploring, completing main and side missions. There'll be on-foot combat as you go in raiding camps and installments. And then there's also going to...
I really do hope they fix that frame rate, though. I hope that's like priority number 1, guys. Get this game optimized so it doesn't feel clunky and glitchy and bad.
Maybe your spaceships, which you can build and customize, creating your own, also making your own outpost, flying out into space, doing ship combat. You'll be mining for resources. There's crafting and research, tons of different
base building. You fort builder, base builder types out there. This scratches your itch for sure. Look at this.
Character customization, traits, weapons, and skill trees. And again, pretty much all of what you expect from a Bethesda game, but newer, bigger, and set out in space. Now,
that's all we could ask for. Newer, bigger, better, more to do, and in space.
Apparently, this is still on track to release in the first half of the year, according to the recently published Bethesda support page, which might come as a surprise to people.
I gotta wonder, so it's expected in the first half of the year, but they're doing a showcase soon to show off where they're at. I wonder if they're shooting for maybe like June-ish then, because there's no way they're going to be ready like soon after the showcase that they're doing, or at least not in my mind.
With how infrequent and quiet things have been on the news and update front in this game for the past few months, but they have said that it is still in fact on track. The most recent update we get came from a short Q&A video. They discussed various things like how they're going to be taking the randomized events, and instead of just being an NPC that presents you with a quest, there might be an entire destination, a location, a small town or city that will be full of NPCs that have issues for you to deal with.
I like to hear that. I like to hear that. You're not just going to show up and do one thing in the whole planet or the whole like region of a planet or something. You're going to have stuff to do. That's really reassuring, because it would feel really bad to travel forever. Like, you got a lot of dead space and you're traveling in space. I mean, sure, it looks atmospheric and feels atmospheric and cool, but you get somewhere and you do one quest and you say to yourself, oh, I just traveled for, 15 minutes or whatever, however long, just to do one thing. Wow. So that's really reassuring that they're fleshing it out. I mean, that shows with how much dialogue they had too. They've got to have quests, right?
And then to go along with that, there will be generated areas to complete those quests. They also touched on how the main quest line will sort of take you through a tour of the settled systems, exposing you to all of its major players. And then from there, you'll decide what factions you want to join and try to have influence over. They also kind of briefly discussed some improvements to the companion and NPC reputation systems. Now, last year, I made a video going over some of my early concerns that I have for Starfield. This was mainly centered around that big gameplay reveal that they came out with that had some obvious issues, low visual fidelity, but really the biggest thing for me were their performance problems with some very clear.
Oh yeah, I touched on that already. That frame rate, man. I mean, Bethesda, you make awesome games, like in terms of story and world building and level design and like mechanics and stuff, but I don't know, you might scare a lot of people off just with the frame rate. Like, really, if you don't fix that, the optimization issues, it's not going to be pretty.
Massive spikes in FPS, but then also just some like basic design concerns like the likelihood of the barren worlds, which as we just touched on, it will definitely be the case. There are 1,000 planets, almost all of which is procedurally generated when we talk about the landscape with handcrafted areas in between. It is space. This is kind of what we expect. I did not expect worlds just like chock full of like dense urban locations or something like that. But even with some of my early concerns, I do still think that Starfield could turn out to be a great game.
I'm holding for hope for that as well. I really hope it's going to be a great game. I mean, space, this is what we want, right? We want this vast open world with other games, and it doesn't get much bigger than the potential with space.
Really hope they can iron out some of the issues, especially really focus on fixing performance, make that as good as possible, and try to launch relatively bug-free. Both the Elder Scrolls series and Fallout series are near and dear to me, as I know they are for a lot of people, and I want this to turn out as good as possible. Although, if I'm being honest, I expect they will have the usual amount of Bethesda funk on release, which, you know.
Are we talking day one patches? Are we going to have some day one patches? Hey, you know, I won't complain, but yeah, I will complain.
Hasn't deterred fans of their games thus far, myself included. I will add a bit of a funny note though, is that there is already a group of modders preparing and beginning work for a day one patch for Starfield. I am not kidding. They've said that the goal of this is to improve the vanilla experience for players by fixing things like script errors, faulty missions and quest exploits, and other game-breaking bugs. Basically, after so many years of Bethesda game releases, there are just things that constantly come up every time one of their new games launches, and they're already preparing before there's even a playable build in anyone's hands.
That's insane. That goes to show just how dedicated this player base is. The true fans of Bethesda games. There's a whole community already dedicated. Like, okay, we know their game is going to have issues, so we're ready to do custom code to fix these issues to mod your game day one. That's insane.
Found that a bit funny. Starfield, this is the big thing coming from Bethesda this year, but it's not the only thing. Fallout 4 is expected to be getting a next-gen update in 2023. They announced this late last year. This will include...
I missed that. I did not hear about that. They're doing a next-gen update for Fallout 4. That's crazy. That's cool. I hope it's free.
Things like performance mode, which will feature higher frame rates, quality mode, which features up to 4K resolution.
Yes, please give the higher frame rates, please. Because I have a 165 hertz monitor here, and I can't play the game at 165 hertz. You have to actually drop the hertz back down to 60 so you can play Fallout 4. It's silly.
There will be a general improvement to the visuals of the game, as well as bug fixes and bonus Creation Club content, which is pretty interesting. We know that the Skyrim Anniversary Edition included a bunch of new Creation Club content, which just wasn't in the game prior, like brand new stuff. So could very well be a similar case for this next-gen update for Fallout 4. And then there is the redheaded stepchild of the Fallout series. Of course, I'm talking about Fallout 76. They have got updates planned in 2023. Specifically, we know about the mutation invasion. This is the 15th major update for the game. It'll be coming in late February. This introduces season number 12, as well as the new mutated public events that go every hour on the hour, giving bonus rewards, consumables, and other things. There will be daily OP updates, new locations, new alien enemy types, new events, and just a bunch of new stuff. And again, this...
The redheaded stepchild of Fallout. That's funny. I played 76 and it was good. It just felt when I played it there weren't any NPCs and it felt empty. It just felt really weird. I don't know. It didn't really fully feel like a Fallout experience to me. Am I crazy? I don't know. It didn't.
This is just the first update of the year. We expect the game to get a few more. I've really been hearing a lot of positive things about this game recently. I have considered jumping back into 76. It had plenty of issues, but
Okay. You're nudging me. You're giving me a gentle nudge. I'm considering it.
But I didn't even hate the game when it launched. That is not to dismiss the problems that it had, just to say I still had a fun time, even with how buggy and glitchy and in a lot of ways bad it was. I still kind of enjoyed it. So I'm really curious to see now, after all of these years of updates, how 76 is looking nowadays. And then also there is an unannounced mobile game. They do have this in development. It's said to be a pet project of Todd Howard. He recently said on a podcast, "We have a new mobile game that we're working on that we haven't announced yet that I am in love with," and then went on.
Okay, that's interesting. Get the mobile gamers out there excited about Bethesda.
To say that the game would offer a more substantial experience than Bethesda's previous mobile titles, but that's about it. There were no details on the franchise, IP, or even the genre of the game. This is rumored to be known as Spy Team. Bethesda trademarked this name back in March 2022, but that's just an assumption. We don't know for sure if this mobile game is tied to that trademark or not. And then also, what's really exciting to me is that if Starfield does end up hitting that target release of within the first half of this year, I do think it is possible that we get another tease of information for their following titles, specifically talking the Elder Scrolls 6. Now,
seriously, Elder Scrolls 6, it's been a while. I can't even... Here, hold on a second. This is worth searching. Elder Scrolls... come on, 6 announcement. When was this? 2018? Okay, that's 5 years ago. 2018. Dang, yeah, it's been a while.
Now, this game is in pre-production as far as we know. It is no doubt at least 4, 5, 6, or even 7 years away from release. However, since it has been a few years since...
7 years from release? And it got teased in 2018? What are you talking about? That's insane.
The initial reveal, and with Starfield officially launching again, assuming it hits the target in the first half of this year, I think it is possible that during some event towards the end of the year, be it the Game Awards or any other major event or one of the developer directs that Microsoft plans to keep on doing, I think it's possible we see or hear more. I'm not talking gameplay, I'm not even talking a name. I think it's possible though that we just get an update about the game and maybe even some...
I mean, that would be cool, yeah, just to get some kind of update so that the people waiting on bated breath, when do I get the next Elder Scrolls? They get something to tide them over.
Some concept art, which is pretty exciting. As for Fallout 5, we're talking like 15 years or something, bro. Let's hold our horses on that one. So that is the lineup for Bethesda Game Studios. Now,
that's fair, that's fair. I really hope Fallout 5 actually looks next gen, because I feel like Fallout 4 / Fallout 76, they both kind of felt a little bit old in the graphics department. Maybe this graphics update that they're talking about will help, but yeah, they felt just a little bit outdated graphically, and so yeah, a Fallout 5 should look amazing.
Now I want to talk about Bethesda Softworks, their parent company, who also has quite a lot planned for 2023. First up is Redfall, the first-person open-world action game set on an island off the coast of Massachusetts that's filled with vampires. Not a pretty place. You'll team up with friends and wield a bunch of ridiculous weapons and powers to try to take them out. And from what
I remember hearing about this game, and it does sound pretty good. I don't know much about it, but just from the little bit that I remember, it sounded good.
What we've seen, this game looks to be a mix of the studio's prior works, combining things like the action of Deathloop with the movement and special powers seen in things like Dishonored. If I were to be reductive, I think that's a decent way to describe it. Ever since the first showcase, many people kind of got the impression that this was going to be like a Left 4 Dead style game. However, Arcane has come out to say that it's actually going to be a lot more like the Far Cry series, saying it's totally understandable for someone to come to that conclusion. There are 4 playable characters, you can play together cooperatively, and you're going out against the undead. But in terms of the way you play the game, Redfall is not like those games at all. It's more like loading into Far Cry. They touched on the fact that this is set in this large, expansive open world, which is a far cry, a departure from what the studio
Oh man, that was a dad joke right there.
normally does, which are these more like narrow, confined spaces to explore. Redfall is big and open. They said you'll have a home base where you can talk to NPCs and get side quests. You can go to the mission table and pick up story-driven missions, or you can not care about any of that and just head outside, pick a direction, and run into the living world stuff that we have going on. So it's going to be a big open world game. There'll be a lot of dynamic events and things that you can engage with, places that you can explore.
I mean, just this little clip of gameplay, it looks inviting. It looks fun.
Even said that there will be plenty of variety in how you approach various missions and objectives, saying you'll want to see if you can go into that barn that you found, if you can climb a fire lookout tower that you spotted in the distance, or try and get into a house and read all of the notes scattered inside to uncover the lore. Some of Redfall's most powerful moments come from wandering around, absorbing the world, and getting caught up in the high action for a moment. That was the atmosphere we set out to create from the beginning. I think Redfall
very cool. Yeah, this is it looks engaging. It looks fun.
Actually looks pretty darn good, to the point that I was surprised by the lack of enthusiasm around just almost all of their reveals. The initial reveal, the subsequent gameplay trailers, and various updates for the game. It seems like the reaction has been fairly muted. I have liked a lot of Arkane's prior work. I really like Dishonored, and I like the idea of this supernatural open world take.
I honestly didn't play Dishonored that much, so I can't have a very strong opinion about it. But yeah, again, just going off of this kind of gameplay footage, if this is even actually going to be, reflective of the actual gameplay, it looks good based on the video.
On the things that they have made before, especially now knowing that it isn't just meant to be a Left 4 Dead spinoff. It is very much so a different kind of experience. Now, we don't have an official release date as of yet. However, according to rumors, Redfall will be launching in the spring. It is said that they will be entering some sort of early access period at the end of April and seeing a full release on May the 2nd. Now, Redfall is going to be one of the
May the 2nd, we have a date to look forward to. Let's see if it's good.
Highlights at the Xbox Developer Direct coming up at the end of this month. So we do expect to be not only seeing more, they have said we're going to be seeing a bunch of single and multiplayer gameplay, a look at combat, customization, bosses, the open world, and more. And I presume this is where we will finally get an official release date. And yes, I am looking forward to it. Next up, there is the Elder Scrolls Online. There are some big updates. Every year, ESO gets a large series of updates. However, they're going to be changing their expansion model in 2023. Instead of releasing the content spread out over the year, it's going to be more confined into one major release. So the current expectation...
Maybe that's a good thing, because that's what WoW does, and WoW is successful. I mean, they have their big and Final Fantasy 14. They both do their big surges of player base with the release of expansions, and then they have they just have that ebb and flow. But it works for them, constantly getting in more revenue over time.
Is in Q1, we will be getting a dungeon DLC. Typically, this includes 2 new dungeons. But then in Q2, it will include everything else. A full feature chapter update, the 2023 ESO chapter storyline, new zones, new areas, all of that stuff. And then in quarters 3 and 4, they'll be doing things like quality of life improvements, not like spreading out the content and having it more focused to release in the first and second quarter. This is also going to be highlighted. It is one of the main games that will be revealed at the Developer Direct. And then after the Developer Direct, there is also going to be the full ESO chapter reveal. So we will be finding out what that ESO update is going to be at the end of this month.
Okay, more to come on ESO then.
As you may know, ESO is made specifically by ZOS, ZeniMax Online Studios, and it is rumored that they have another MMO currently in development. In fact, apparently it's been in development for roughly 5 years. It was rumored to be a new IP developed by the studio. They've got a team of roughly...
What? A new MMO? Okay.
200 people working on the project. Not a lot of hints as to what this could be specifically. Some people assume that this could be a MMO version of Starfield. Others think it might be an entirely new IP. A lot of different things are possible. Either way, I'm pretty excited about it. ESO is...
Well, let's get some info. Come on. Show a video. Show something. I would even take still images. Come on.
It's one of those major MMOs that I go back to on a regular basis. In spite of its combat, I do like a lot about the game, the world building, the exploration. I find it quite immersive, and I'm just excited to see whatever they might have coming next. Two other quick things. We also have Tango Gameworks. They have, of course, Ghostwire Tokyo that released last year. This is expected to be getting an Xbox release, most likely also coming to Game Pass.
I was kind of meh. I saw this game. It got released. You know, it came and went. Meh.
And they apparently have some additional projects in development, although not a lot is known about those at the moment. And finally, there's an Indiana Jones game. This is being made by Wolfenstein developer Machine Games. It was first teased.
That just came out of left field. I don't know why, but that just really threw me off. An Indiana Jones game, okay.
Back in 2021, and based on the reveal trailer, it is thought to be set in Rome during the year 1937, which would place it between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. Really have no idea what to expect from this game, but I guess Indiana Jones is making a return. And that is pretty much it for all of the major plans for Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda Software.
That was a good video. I enjoyed that video. That was a nice little recap of everything Bethesda. I had some surprises, things I didn't necessarily know about. Had some reminders, get the feels going, get a little excited again about the upcoming games. That was good.